All right, hello everyone. We're going to be starting our Town Hall Spring Edition. We are very fortunate to have members from the Central Administration, Superintendent Mrs. Petisic. So if we could give them a round of applause. And Assistant Superintendent Mr. Scanlon. So I don't know if the people online can see, but they're sitting here. And thank you for everyone who sent in questions on the grade classrooms. They are going to be answering all of them. So definitely pay attention for juniors and sophomores. We're going to be in the school next year. So I know I want to know answers to these questions. So this will be a good experience. And now we have our President, Jesse Behar, who will be answering our questions.
Moderator.
You can answer them, Jesse.
Oh, yeah, all right, please.
We're good.
Yeah. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Riley. Thank you for coming today.
Of course.
All right. So our first category is masks and vaccine. What are the odds of a vaccine becoming required to attend school next year?
First of all, good afternoon, and it's a pleasure to join all of you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. So with regard to vaccines being required next year, as you know, right now, Moderna is ages 18 and up, and Pfizer is 16 and up. They are working on vaccines for younger children, both of those companies, as well as Johnson & Johnson. However, at this moment in time, there is no requirement, and we have heard nothing from either the CDC, DOH, or the State Education Department requiring these vaccines. I think they're in trial stages at this time, and therefore, I don't anticipate that we would have any information on that at the commencement of the 21-22 school year. That is in progress, and I'm sure that as time goes on, we will receive additional information. But it takes a long time for those things to be put into place. I know that a lot of the medical community is encouraging students, as well as any staff, as well as individuals in our country, to get vaccinated. They have stated that it is safe. But again, our district as a whole has not made any statement with regard to staff or students being vaccinated. That is a personal choice that must be made.
Thank you. So the next question is what will the school change about COVID regulations this upcoming fall?
Say that one more time.
What will the school change about COVID regulations in this upcoming fall?
So as some of you may know, in March, I believe it was March 19th actually, the CDC released new guidance. And then on April 9th, new guidance was released by the Department of Health. Both of those documents are very closely aligned to one another. And some of the major elements that were included in there, which I will be happy to let you know of, had to do with universal mask wearing. So the masks that we all wear are required. The only time they will not be required is if during eating or drinking, which is generally lunchtime, or for students who may be medically or mentally unable to tolerate a mask. And that would have to be with a doctor's permission, which is then reviewed by our chief medical officer. With regard to 6 feet of distance, the CDC and DOH have both said that if cohorting is impossible, if cohorting is possible, and what that means is staying with the same group of students throughout the day. So in our elementary schools, that tends to be the case because they're in classrooms that are designated for that individual group of students. But as we know in our secondary schools, students change from class to class, and it's very difficult to cohort. So we as a district will be sticking to 6 feet of distance between students in pre-K through grade 12. And one of the reasons for that is because the contact tracing hasn't changed. So if you're closer than to someone for more than 10 minutes and you're not at least 6 feet apart, let's say somebody becomes COVID positive, then you would be subject to quarantining. So by keeping everybody 6 feet apart, we're able to avoid that from happening, and people are able to remain in school. So that was the other element. The other significant element in both documents was the recommendation for the removal of physical barriers. Now, at the secondary level, the physical barriers are not in place for all of you. And that was optional. Remember, you had the choice of whether you wanted to have that or not because you move from class to class. But our elementary school students, they're stationary, and those barriers are around their desks and have been since September. So going forward for next year, both the CDC and DOH have recommended that those are not necessary. So those are the significant changes, but we do foresee that we would be at 6 feet apart with the universal mask wearing for next year. If I'm going too lengthy, tell me.
It's all good. You just answered like 3 of our next questions, so I can move on. I can skip those now, so all good. Will we have to wear masks at prom and graduation?
I like this job.
Yeah, you can tell I've spent a lot of time with the Department of Health. That really is going to be up to the venue, the East Wind venue, because they have certain regulations that they need to follow. From what I understand from reading some of the information that has been put forth by the Department of Health, if you are seated at your table, that you are allowed to take off your masks. But if you're moving around the venue, then you are supposed to have your masks on. But again, we will await information from the East Wind to give us clear direction on what that would be like. I have said to Mr. Bernhard, and I feel strongly about this, when you get your picture taken with your whoever you're there with, I am asking that the students have the opportunity to remove their masks so that you can have a picture of yourself and your date at the prom together without the masks on, because that would be very disappointing, I think, for everyone. Mm-hmm. And graduation, yes, you must wear your mask at graduation, except when you come up to get your diploma. You would remove your mask briefly to have your picture taken with your diploma, and then you would return to your seat and put your mask on. That is required.
Can we have more frequent mask breaks this year?
So mask breaks are permitted during the day, and again, that would be with the discretion of your teacher and what the student may need. Sometimes students, a teacher may ask a student to just step outside the classroom, and you could still hear what's going on in the classroom, especially if you needed more time for a mask break. I think it really has to be based on the individual student and what they may need, as well as what's going on in the classroom. We've encouraged that all classroom doors remain open because, again, the ventilation and the filtration, and if windows can be open, we encourage that as well.
So that concludes our masks and vaccination category. Our next category is what will school look like next year? So the first question is, will field trips be allowed for clubs next year?
So as you know, the one and only field trip that we're doing this year will be our senior field trip. And that is it's a significant milestone for our seniors, and we feel it's important. I think we're going to try to open that up a little bit, and as long as we can do those safely, I believe that Mr. Scanlon and I and our Board of Education would be open to that. We want to make this as normal an experience as possible for our students. I know some other school districts have begun to look at field trips, and if they can be conducted with safety, I would definitely be amenable to that. Absolutely.
Will next year's sports season be normal, such as sports occurring in the fall that normally occur?
Yeah, okay. So with regard to sports, we have to await information from New York State, as well as Section 11, as to whether that will take place. As you know, right now, all of the sports seasons were truncated and the seasons were changed. I believe we're starting spring sports season very soon, but again, it will be a shortened season. I don't know whether they will look similar to this year. I'm hoping not, that it will be more of what is traditional, but whether or not higher risk athletes will still need to be tested, that is something that will be forthcoming. So I really don't have the answer to that, but as soon as we do, that will be shared with our students and their families.
So will full remote learning still be an option for next year? Other schools are eliminating it.
So we are in the process of developing a preliminary survey that will be sent to all families probably by the end of May. Is going to ask that question. Would you be sending your child back for full-time instruction, in-person instruction, or would you be looking for a remote option? I suspect there will be a remote option next year. We do have families and students who are immunocompromised, as well as there are still people who feel very nervous about being in a school setting, although we do feel it is safe to be here, and I think we've proven that. Right now, we have 87% of our students district-wide in school and 13% are remote. I suspect those numbers are going to look more like 90 to 92% in next year and 8 to 10% out. So there will definitely be a remote option next year.
Thank you. So will exterior passing and dining continue into next year?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Yeah. Oh, will we have our lockers back for next year? It is inconvenient to carry everything, and not everyone uses their locker, so social distancing won't probably be an issue.
Yeah. Okay. So in reading the documents, the guidance documents that we received from CDC and DOH, they are recommending still that we avoid any congregation of students at lockers. That is the recommendation. But again, we're going to be seeking feedback on that, and I can't give a definitive answer on that at this point.
Will the bell schedule remain the same for next year, including 5-minute passing periods and ending at 1:45?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so that concludes what school will look like next year category, and we'll move on to school improvements.
Okay.
So why are so many doors locked after school?
Yeah, Kevin, you want to take one? Go right ahead.
No problem. Once in a
All
while.
right.
So the basic answer to that question is that we are trying to ensure the security within the building. Unfortunately, we would hope that people that are entering the building at different times are doing so for the best of intentions, students coming in, faculty coming in. But with our security staff down depleted after hours to certain doors, we would have to cover all those entrances and exits. So that's an increase of security concerns. We also don't want anyone coming in the building to do any harm to anyone. We couldn't police necessarily every door again, and we don't know what could happen. If, God forbid, there was something placed in the building, we had to do an evacuation, we want to try to avoid doing those type of things. So, yeah, we're going to try to keep it as secure as possible.
Will locker rooms be open for sports next year and for gym class?
So we're still evaluating the locker issue. As you know, we did open locker rooms for football because of the amount of equipment that is necessary for the students. And we have been monitoring that very carefully. So far, that's working out very, very well. We know there are other sports that also have a lot of equipment. So that's something that we're going to assess as we move forward. And we've been using it for band equipment also. So we've opened that up a little bit, and we'll continue to look at that as an option. We know it's a convenience.
Thank you. Can you advertise BOCES more and let students know that it's a great program and technical careers are a great opportunity?
Absolutely. So there is a whole field called career and technical education. We do want students here to be exposed to those type of programs and have those opportunities. Sometimes the issue becomes for students the distance to where some of those programs are located. Where the particular facility is down in Patchogue. It's about a 45-minute ride. And because of the way our school day starts, it precludes the early morning part of that program. So we only have been, over the course of years, been able to participate in the afternoon program, which means that you have a 45-minute ride back when those programs are over, and it might prevent you from participating in some clubs or sports during different times of the year. Remember, it's a full year program, and it begins in the junior year. But the guidance department has been very, very supportive of trying to get those things out there that are available, the number of different programs that are available. In addition to that, we're also looking to start some of our own programs for CTE credit. We have a number of programs here, such as in art and technology, that qualify. So we're going to begin a application process to see if the state would allow us to award those type of credits here through those programs.
Thank you. Is there still an effort being made to implement a later start time at Ward Melville?
So last year, during the 2019-2020 school year, we were looking, a committee had been formed to look at a later start time, and I know some of you may have actually been serving on that committee. All of a sudden fell out. And so the committee was put on hiatus for this year because of obviously COVID, and our focus was on creating a health and safety of our schools. That had to be the focus. However, for next year, we will reconvene that committee at some point to look at a later start time, and we'll do a lot of research. I do not see a later start time happening, obviously next year, and it would take a couple of years before anything like that would be put into place, or if it would be put into place. The ultimate decision as to whether that would happen is really rests with the Board of Education.
So the next question is, oh geez, can we get better Chromebooks? These Chromebooks are very slow, especially when you're using a Google Meet.
Yes, we're actually buying a whole new slew of Chromebooks. This did get louder. So we are every year purchasing new devices through our district budget. The devices, as you know, you guys know technology better than I do. They get better and better every single year. So stuff that was 5 years ago is probably obsolete by now in many ways. So as the devices are aging out, we're going to be replacing them. Starting this summer, just before the end of the school year, we're going to be taking your Chromebooks back for any students that don't need them over the summer for whatever purposes. Some of the AP courses I know do some work over the summer. We have some summer programs. And we're going to be discontinuing some of them because they're old and giving you brand new ones. And others are going to be upgraded to the newer machines, the newer devices on there in that location. So we are doing that.
Why is, oh my god.
I know, I'm glad it wasn't.
This lowers it. We'll see. Still work? Nope.
No.
It is.
It's good?
Just hold it down. Lower, just put it lower away from your mouth.
There you go. All right. So why is paper strictly prohibited in class? It's kind of hard to sit on your Chromebook for 9 periods a day.
You want to take that one down?
Honestly, the paper can't be disinfected. So if it's being passed around between students, if one of you in the class is sick or has contracted COVID, God forbid, you'll be passing it around to everybody else in class, including your teacher. So that's why we tried to discontinue the use of the paper and try to go more electronic. As you're preparing to go forward for your college experiences, Jesse and any of the other seniors in here, you're going to find that many of the colleges don't use paper anymore. just to give you a sense, I was a principal of a high school before becoming an assistant superintendent, and we discontinued use of paper and went to one-to-one devices. In 1 year, the first year we did that, we saved $100,000 in paper costs. And when we equated that out to a forest, how much paper, that was the equivalent of over 200 acres of trees that were saved just by not using paper. So although this is inconvenient in some ways and for health and safety purposes, it's actually serving a greater good in the long run. And exposing you to something that you're going to probably be experiencing more and more as you move forward. The use of paper is going to be less and less every year.
Yeah, it's true. It is Earth Day, yeah. Will the district be continuing the free lunch and breakfast option next year?
At this time, we don't have information regarding that, and that would be coming from both the state and federal government. So as soon as we have that information, it will be shared with the families and students in Three Village.
Why is there no 4:50 bus for the high school? Can we get a bus that is earlier than 5:45 since very few students need it and most people take it only when they miss the 4:10 bus? Because I know in like Julianus and stuff, there was one.
Yeah, we definitely did cut down on transportation. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that initially there weren't really sports happening initially at the high school or any secondary level. So that is something that I have no problem going back and speaking to our transportation director about. I think next year it'll probably be something we need much more than we needed at the commencement of this school year. So for sure.
Can there be more water fountains located throughout the school? I don't know if you.
I'll speak to our architect and also Mr. Carlson about that. That's a little out of my wheelhouse, but yes, I will definitely put that on my list. Okay.
Can seniors be allowed to go on the turf during their lunch periods? Like the turf outside. Like the turf field, like play games, stuff like that.
Right. That's a question I think that I would encourage you to direct to Mr. Bernhardt and the building administration. We would not be micromanaging that decision at central level.
So that is going to end the category of school improvements. And so our next category is going to be future events. So the next one is, I think pep rallies and spirit days would be a good way to make the overall atmosphere of the school happier. If everything is outside in distance, it would be a fun way to bring the school together. Can we have more outside events like this?
Just you're talking about for this year?
Yeah, this year.
Again, that's a decision that really would rest with building administration. We're not opposed to that as long as it can be done in a health and safe manner with the students. And again, I would have that discussion with Mr. Bernhardt and the building administration. I'm not trying to put it off on them, but I don't really think that that's something that central office would decide.
So this question is like directed towards next year.
Okay.
So it's like, can in-person events please happen such as homecoming and trick-or-treat street? Our in-person senior pep rally went very well and no one got COVID and a lot of people are getting tired of virtual events.
I can completely understand. I think having in-person events is so much more meaningful and impactful. So I guess we're just going to have to watch the data and science as we move forward. Watch the COVID numbers and the percentages of those who are positive. As we know, things are beginning to open up across our state. And so I think we are going to take direction from that. And I'm hopeful that the future will bring more personal events in place.
This one says, since sophomores missed out on all their big ninth grade events like trips and formal, would there be a way to either host a dance or any general event to somewhat repay them for what they lost? Maybe like next year?
So again, that's something that I really feel should have a conversation with Mr. Bernhardt and the building administration, we want you to have as normal an experience as possible and to recapture those very special, memorable moments.
This question asks, what's the plan for yearbooks, and will teachers be like able to like sign them like normal?
Yeah. I don't think those decisions have actually been made at this point. I will tell you, I've had discussions with the principals at the elementary level, and they're going to just be doing it within their classrooms, which makes some sense. But again, high school students and secondary students have a lot more interaction with many more people across levels and disciplines. So that is something that Mr. Scanlon and I will have to discuss with our building administration. I understand the importance.
Thank you. So that's going to end the future events category. So our last category is end of the year events and grading policies. So is there going to be a final week this week? This year. Hopefully not this week. Not now.
Surprise, surprise, Justin. There will be a finals week. Yes, it will be a 2-week period of time. As you know, there are 4 regions being given, Algebra 1, Earth Science, Living Environment, and ELA. That is something that the State Education Department is required to do. Those exams will be given. Students, if you've read the letter or have seen the letter, the students can choose not, it's going in and out, choose not to take these, I don't think this is on, choose not to take those exams, but final exams will be administered and will be required.
So that also just answers our next question about the Regents exams, so I'm going to skip that one. Many teachers assign a large amount of homework, which may be reasonable for just our class, but we have many others classes to focus on as well. It not only causes more stress, but results in the lack of sleep from being up late trying to complete everything. Is there a way to decrease the amount of work being sent home?
Rock, paper, scissors. Sure. We can certainly try to speak to the teachers and the departments about the amount of homework that is being given. Homework should not be busy work. It should be constructive to help either prepare you for class or to review the material you're going through. I was a teacher here at Ward Melville many years ago, so I was a social studies teacher here. So I wasn't I didn't do a lot of homework, especially over weekends or breaks. We do have board policies in place about not having long-term assignments due right after a long break. So we can certainly look at that going forward. But the courses as you're going through, especially those college courses, the AP courses that you're taking, do require a lot more preparation because of the amount of content they're requiring. And since New York is one of the later starting schools in the United States, most of the rest of the country starts in August, not in September. So it kind of puts anyone in those courses behind the 8 ball, and the teachers have to try to catch up at the time in that process.
This one says, will there be any place indicated on your transcript to say if you did virtual or in-person school? A lot of students have been wondering about the unequal playing field of taking tests at home versus in school.
No, that would never be indicated on the transcript. The transcript is considered an official document. Unlike your report card, which is not considered an official document. However, I believe that in letters of recommendation that you will obtain from your guidance counselor, from your teachers, they will be indicating your commitment to your studies and whether or not you are a student in person. That is probably the best place for that to be indicated.
So this question is, are we ending the school year at a different date than we usually end? I guess for this year and next year?
No, there is a requirement by the State Education Department that we have 180 days of school which is inclusive of 990 hours of instruction. So we have to meet that requirement by state ed law in order to receive state aid. So in order for us to be certified as meeting the appropriate amount of hours. So no, I do not see that changing for next year. And the calendar is already out. I don't know if you've seen it. It's up on the district website. It's not the calendar that includes all of the activities, but it does tell you the dates. We are starting very late next year due to Labor Day, and there are some other Jewish holidays. So school will not start until September 9th. So it'll be a long summer vacation for all of you.
Awesome. So that was actually our final question. Since we do have some more time, would you guys mind if we open it up to
Not at
questions
all.
here?
Not at all.
Awesome. Does anyone here have any questions? Anyone want to ask anything?
Go ahead, Rob.
Sorry.
With the paper, I understand you don't want it being, affected to the whole class, but if the teacher's just giving us like a study sheet or a worksheet to do, if they're simply handing it to us and if the student is okay with it, could that be allowed? Because half the time the teachers are okay with it, because a lot of times they're vaccinated.
That's absolutely fine.
That's okay?
Yes, we just don't want students sharing that paper. And it's more frequent, I'm sorry, at the elementary level where students tend to share things. So we try not to make that happen, but absolutely.
Because I've asked a lot of my teachers that, like, oh, if you're just giving it to me, can you print it out? Because at least for me, I don't work on studying on the Chromebook. I don't know if that is anyone else.
We'll get that
Yeah,
message
they
out.
always say no. So
That's a good point.
they're like, no, we won't do that.
Sorry. Sorry, I didn't stand
It's
up.
all good. Anyone else have any other questions? Trying to think of something, but I can't. Anyone?
Jesse, there's someone on.
Someone on the chat? All right, perfect. If finals week lies after the end of the school day, will the exams be offered remotely? Will we be in touch with our teachers?
Finals is the 2 weeks after the last.
Right,
after the
Yeah.
school.
It's-
It's separate, like it always is.
right. It's separate and apart.
Okay.
And so we're allowed to give finals remotely. What we cannot give remotely are Regents exams. We're just not allowed to do that.
Okay. I actually have another question myself. So how come we have to take final exams like on top of AP exams? I know, but it's like.
We want to torture you,
I know,
Jesse.
my math one's like.
So the AP test is only testing the AP material, and that's why the AP exams are given in May. Going back to that, what I said earlier, that's because most of the states start in August and end in May. Like New York, we go to the end of June, so you don't sweat in the classrooms. The final is not testing just that material for the AP, it's testing beyond what you learn as well.
I had to try.
I know, it's a good try.
I had to try.
Jesse,
Anyone else have any other questions?
Jesse.
Yeah?
Also, just to add on to what Mr. Scanlon was saying, AP exam scores are not available until the end of June, beginning of July. So for going into July, so you wouldn't actually have a final transcript to show to see if you actually passed a course or not, if you just used an AP exam if you're a senior. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. All right, does anyone else in person or virtual have any questions?
Okay.
Anyone else? We're good?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you, everyone, for coming to town hall.
Thank
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
It really means a lot. I was gonna make them after, but they. Thank you.
Thank you.